watching Canadian Muslim news on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. How is the Ukraine war affecting international relief efforts? We'll talk to REYHANA PATEL from Islamic Relief. But first, some news headlines. Canadians mark Red Dress Day. Dr. Fahad Razack is the new scientific director on Ontario's COVID advisory table. Hijab-wearing woman verbally assaulted in Quebec Mall. And US dollar index reaches highest level in almost 20 years. Now, the details. Canadians mark the National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls yesterday with Red Dress Day. In British Columbia, dozens of people withstood the pouring rain as they protested outside Vancouver City Hall. Other demonstrations in the province saw people dressed in red clothing and holding signs such as "Gone but not forgotten" or "No more stolen sisters." The National Day began in 2010 as a way to draw attention and call for action on the issue. Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Mark Miller says the government has not met the measures outlined 3 years ago in the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Inquiry. Public Health Ontario announces that Dr. Fahad Razack will replace Dr. Peter Juni as the COVID-19 Science Advisory Table's scientific director on May 9th. Dr. Razack has been with the table since they started at the beginning of the pandemic. He has contributed to science briefs on the topics of hospitals, vaccines, and long COVID. Dr. Razack works as a general internist at St. Michael's Hospital and is an assistant professor at the University of Toronto. In a tweet last Friday, he says he is honoured to be in a position that provides a scientific response to the pandemic and thanks his colleagues for their work. A young Muslim woman says she is shocked after being verbally abused and threatened at her workplace in a Montreal mall last week. Media sources report that a man approached her stall, saying that he would make her close her shop and that he would take off her hijab, amongst other things. He allegedly called her submissive and a sexual abuser. She managed to film the event, and the video has now gone viral. Lena El-Bakir, the Quebec advisory officer at the National Council of Canadian Muslims, says that this is only one of many instances where visible Muslims are targeted in public spaces. The US dollar index on Friday has climbed to its highest level in almost 20 years, with worries of economic slowdown in the US economy, the Federal Reserve raising rates, and a major sell-off in US stock exchanges. The US dollar index, used to measure the value of the greenback against a basket of 6 foreign currencies that include the British pound, euro, Swiss franc, Japanese yen, Canadian dollar, and Swedish krona, jumped to $104.06. Investors have been selling US stocks and liquidating their positions to turn towards the US dollar, which raises the value of the dollar index. And that's it for the news. With the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, prices are skyrocketing the world over. To talk about how this impacts relief work, we have with us REYHANA PATEL from Islamic Relief. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. I hope you had a happy Eid.
Yeah, belated Eid Mubarak.
Belated Eid Mubarak. Now, we know about inflation and it's happening all over, not just in Canada. How is this impacting your relief work?
Yeah, so as you know, we're seeing gas prices go up, grocery prices go up here in Canada. That is having an impact around the world in a lot of the countries that we work in. So increased food prices is one example. So, when you look at a country like Afghanistan or Yemen, the prices of food, these are countries that are already, struggling with food security. When you look at the prices of food rising here, it's obviously having that trickle down impact. So our teams on the ground are telling us that the need is increasing, but we're also seeing, less people that are giving because obviously, people can't give as much as they used to because of their personal circumstances, and that's having a trickle down effect. But if you look at a country like Yemen, for example, 7 years of conflict. Food prices have actually increased by 30% there. And a place like Somalia, for example, and I have some statistics here that I wanted to share with you. So the price of cooking oil, for example, has doubled since last Ramadan. So it went from US $4 to $8 for just 3 years. So not only, is it having the impact we're feeling of people giving, but on the ground is costing more to secure, basic stuff like food and aid to give to people. So unless we're getting more aid that's coming in so we can match those costs, we're seeing the need increase, but we're also seeing the prices increase, which is affecting not only aid organizations like us, but others around the world to be able to give as much as aid as they used to in the past.
So this is just magnifying suffering.
Yeah, it is. And I think it will continue because it looks like it's an ongoing issue. I mean, when you look at food security in a country like Yemen, for example, it's been going on for 7 years and it's just getting worse and worse. So, we can give as much aid as we can, but, we have to find some sort of long-term sustainable solution that's actually going to cut food prices in half or, conflict altogether.
Well, that was a question in my mind as you were speaking. Is it possible to help people farm their own food and grow their own food?
It is. So when you look at, disasters or conflict, in the immediate need is food. It's basic supply: food, shelter, water, healthcare. But as time goes on, if it's a natural disaster, people can go back to their homes. If it's a conflict, if it's past, people can go back, or if it's not, they're internally displaced. You have to look at long-term survival. Like, what are people going to do? What are the affected populations going to do with their livelihoods? And so what we try to do here at Islamic Relief is a twofold approach. So we are, doing the basic humanitarian aid to food, water, shelter projects, but we also have long-term programming to help people, to help communities actually, earn livelihoods, be able to mitigate disasters and impact. An example I want to give, for example, in Niger, we have a program where we do provide like food, emergency shelter, non-food items, but at the same time, we also have programs which are we're able to help specifically women, earn income, like through training and financial access to be able to actually, survive on their own without the basic reliance on food and humanitarian aid. And then when we look at disaster-prone areas, we often develop community-based disaster reduction plans to mitigate and reduce the impact any future disaster might have upon that particular community. When we
talking about the difference between emergency aid and long-term sustainability, but let's go back to one of the earlier examples you gave of Yemen. You said 7 years, and there's still a conflict, so it's not like there's peace and people can go back. Do you implement long-term sustainability when it's still sort of more like an emergency situation? How's that possible?
It's going on for so long, but at the same time, we do want people to be able to earn their income, but it's very, very difficult. So, when we look at protracted long conflict, and even when you look at famine, long term, unless the conflict ends, the basic necessities are going to be needed there. So food, water, shelter. People won't be able to go back to their homes for a long period of time. So, we have to make the best of the situation there.
What is the top campaign you're focused on right now at Islamic Relief?
So we've just obviously come out of Ramadan and we have a number of emergencies right now, but our focus throughout the month and continuing would be Yemen and Afghanistan. So a statistic that I came across, the last few weeks was that the prediction was that by the end of the year, 97% of the population in Afghanistan will be forced into poverty. That's a huge number, 97% of the population. So that's very, very concerning. And then Yemen, for example, has been going on for a very, very long time, and it will continue as long as, the country is in conflict. The need will continue to be there. But, we work in 30 countries around the world. There's in both long-term and emergency aid, but the two main focus throughout Ramadan have been on Yemen and Afghanistan. And obviously, we're still in Palestine as well. So we're still responding there as well.
I mean, that's Afghanistan, 97%. I mean, that's just a horrendous figure. Do you feel, I know you don't get into politics, so I don't know if you'll answer this question, but do you feel that with the current focus on Ukraine and Ukrainian refugees, I read that Germany is now asking Afghan refugees to leave so they have space for Ukrainian refugees. Do you feel that these countries that you mentioned, Afghanistan, Yemen, and others, have lost the world's attention?
I think so. I mean, what we see now in the media. It's, I'm not taking away or from the Ukraine conflict, but we're not seeing the focus, as it used to on conflicts like Afghanistan and Yemen. What we want to be careful of, and it's something that we've been doing with the NGO sector, is that the humanitarian aid that's been set aside for, for as a country, as Canada, we want to make sure that aid is not diverted to Ukraine, but actually additional funding is being used. So for whatever's been committed or whatever's there for Afghanistan, we don't want that to be used for other conflicts. That need is still there and it will increase. So we're actually asking for an increase in aid funding as a country as a whole. I think Canada can do more. And that's something that we've been doing. But what we don't want to see, and this is probably, I can't say if it's happening in countries, but I can foresee it happening, that, as budgets are cut, that we're seeing aid for different countries moved around, and we don't want to see that. The need across multiple countries is there, and that has to be addressed.
Islamic Relief is a global organization. I think the focus is on international relief, but do you also give aid in Canada?
Yes, we do. So we not only work around the world, but we also work here in Canada, and we also have programming in Canada. And that ranges from, disaster relief, supporting local organizations, poverty reduction, women and girls, youth work. So there's a number of projects. We also have a lot of volunteer programs, and anyone can donate to that as well. They can just go online and do that. The need, even though, the need overseas is great, there's also a need here as well. So we're just making sure that we're responding here in Canada to those that need us as well.
And you just mentioned people can go online, they can choose a campaign. I choose to vote, donate to a particular country overseas, or I can choose something local.
Yeah, that's correct. They can even choose specific funds like Zakat, Sadqa. They can choose specific countries, or they can go with a domestic program. So there's a lot of options on our website.
Well, we know that you have a lot to do, so we thank you for spending a little bit of time to us, telling us about what's going on at Islamic Relief.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for watching Canadian Muslim News. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe and God bless.